Okay, getting ready to do the show. Dun, 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 dun. What's that theme song? Why is it in my head? Why is it in my head? Okay, I want to know. If you know what that theme song is, let me know in the comments. We're just getting ready to go live. Well, we are live because you're watching this, but this is a pre-recorded message. I'm preparing to go live as I record this. But we've got lots of things before we go live at 10 o'clock. I hope that you have time to join us. I hope that you can stay for the whole show. And I hope that you have lots of questions because this is all about you. Ask a Traffic Cop is a show that's made possible by you interacting, asking us, well, me, those great questions that you have, whether they be about traffic law, traffic safety, or police stuff in general. Hey, we can talk about recruiting. We're hiring. There's so much to talk about. So if you've got questions, regardless of the platform, ask them. Well, that's not true. It's not regardless of the platform. Twitter doesn't work. If you ask me a question on Twitter, I won't see it. You can watch us, but it's a one-way thing. I hope they fix it. I hope they fix it. Only just over a minute before we go into the show, but you can watch. You can watch anywhere almost. Well, watching, yeah. So TikTok, it's the #1 platform. Over 602,000 followers there right now. You can jump on and you can go into the Q&A feature to ask questions. You can go on Instagram Live and do the same thing. You can go on to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. They all work beautifully. Even my LinkedIn will bring you the show, and you can ask questions, and we will answer live because that's what we do. Twitter, go to traffichop.ca and move on to one of our other platforms. Links are all there, and life becomes easier. 30 seconds. What else can I talk to you about 30 seconds? We're going to talk about Vision Zero Enforcement Team. We're going to talk about FriYAY. We got dad jokes because that's a new thing. If you've got dad jokes, share them with us because maybe we'll read your dad joke. I like dad jokes. I'm a dad. Can't help myself. Sergeant Campbell's not here today. He's playing with his snowmobile because he said he would, so I believe him. And 5 seconds? Now it's 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I guess we go back to doing what we do. Hello and good morning. That was a pre-recorded message, as I think it stated. So if you caught in there, now that I'm trying to balance this wide-angle thing, it takes a couple seconds, so I give myself 2 minutes at the beginning of the stream, give you some basic messages, and when we do this, we're also going vertical video on VoiceOver Cop. If you prefer vertical video, feel free. Yeah. So what are we doing? We're doing this Ask a Traffic Cop thing where we answer your traffic and police questions. If you are on TikTok, then hey, you should be dropping questions in the comments. CJ is standing by to essentially cut and paste your questions so I can show them to you on the screen. And it's not Q&A, but it does allow us to do these lower thirds, and that is amazing. So I like it. So questions will be something we can put on screen, just like the way it should be, but doesn't. Anyway, moving on. Akela Draconis coming in from YouTube with greetings and salutations, and I can put that on screen. We also have my friend Richard with a good morning, also coming in on YouTube. I think this is so cool. If you're watching on TikTok and you prefer that horizontal, actual horizontal as opposed to the letterbox on the top, rotate and press that little squiggly button that allows you to rotate it. You'll still have a great experience. This wide angle is something that I'm really getting into. I like it, and we've had such positive responses, but we also have mixed responses. Some people don't like it. Let's see. We've got Shidos416 says, it's my boy. We have Richard Siru says, hello, Sean. John Pierre says, good morning. We have, who do we have? This is RK says, TPS livery, favorite TPS livery. So we're talking about the way that the police vehicle is finished. I like the way we have it now. I miss my blue on blue stealth car. That was cool back in the day. But I like the new stuff. Tanner says hi. Ziad says good morning. Che, yo, I got a question. Well, Che, you should ask the question. We'll answer the question. That's what we do here on Ask a Traffic Cop, a show for you. It really relies on you asking questions for this to go well. Say nothing, you won't get answers. Mind you, there's probably a ton of people who will be asking a question that you would have asked had you just typed it in. Let's go in here. I've got a little business to take care of, which is talking about where the Vision Zero Enforcement Team is, and then we'll get back into the chat. But first, Today's the 27th of January. It's FriYAY, and Vision Zero enforcement team officers are currently spending time. They're focusing their efforts in 31 Division and 41 Division. Those numbers may mean very little to you if you don't live in those divisions or if you're just curious as to where that is. And I'll tell you where that is. Those are communities that are like Black Creek, Humbermead, Downsview, Humber Summit, Dorset Park, Kennedy Park, Birchcliff, Cliffside. Hey, if you are in one of those divisions and you don't feel like you've been represented because we didn't use a hashtag or a name to represent your specific neighborhood, let us know. Humber Summit, let us know. And now we include them in every time we post it. So that's how we roll. Do we roll that way, really? Okay, going back into the chat. So we've got... okay, Tanner says, what's the rule on service dogs and businesses in Ontario? You know, Tanner, I don't know. I don't know because that's not something that I've ever really researched or spent time with. My understanding with accessibility always, what is it now? Now I'm drawing a blank. There's a great acronym, talks about Ontario's accessibility, and I'm drawing a blank. But my understanding is they're allowed everywhere if they're truly a certified. There were a lot of people who were just getting dogs and calling them service dogs when they weren't service dogs, and I'm sure that did not go well for people. So I think they've tightened it up. But if you have a service dog, they're supposed to let you in. Obviously, seeing eye dogs are allowed everywhere, and there's a tremendous amount of money that goes into training those animals. So I hope you're not having any issues with that. If you send me a message, DM, I will look up what the actual specifics are. I just don't know it off the top of my head. I am a traffic guy, a traffic cop, so that's where I focus my time. But I do want to help everyone who has questions. Security Stand says, archaic law of the day, please. Archaic law of the day. There's something about sleigh bells that comes to mind. But, you know, there's a ton of stuff. Like you can't take your cow, you can't herd cows on Yonge Street on Sundays. There's a bunch of stuff. But we'll have to start that as a segment. So that's a good idea. I'm taking out my notebook. Notebook out. Here's the notebook. Archaic law of the day. It'll go as a segment to the dad jokes. Law of the day. I like it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service here in Ontario, Canada, and I talk about that traffic safety stuff. I do it in the way of recorded stuff, and I do it on the way of, everyday stuff. If you are new to the channel, please follow us and share the live and share the channel to everybody that you can possibly think of, because this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Do you know what I forgot to do? A horrible person today. I forgot to press go on Instagram. So we've been ignoring the Instagram people. Let me just resolve that issue right now. Instagram, for some reason, I thought I did it. I didn't do it. Oh, well. Okay. Hey, Instagram, I completely forgot about you. They're now live, too. Or live. We're live on Instagram Live. Yeah. Okay. So, here's a good question. TFC Maniac wants to know, if I run a stop sign on private property, can I still get a ticket? That is a great question. The answer is no, not for stop sign. The stop sign charge doesn't work. It is not enforceable on private property. If you're dangerously driving, that's applicable. That's a criminal charge. If you're stunt driving, we can lay that charge on private property, but not specifically running a stop sign. Let's see here. Morning. Oh, hey, look at that. And I could have pressed the button, although we missed an M. All right. Let's remove that one. I have to do it a little manually. What are your guys' regulations on diesel pickups and them being deleted and tuned? This is an emissions thing. You got to have an exhaust system. You have to have a functioning emission system. You take it out, you get a no muffler or no exhaust system, it's a ticket. And if there's potentially, well, you're talking about emissions beyond that of just smoke. It could be an Environmental Protection Act issue, which in the States may not be an issue, but it is an issue here. And what else? Tickets. You get unnecessary noise. If it's now creating unnecessary noise, you get 110 for that, 110 for the muffler. They add up. And the other stuff could get you taken off the road. Okay. My son has a G1. Can he drive with myself, his mom, and his 13-year-old son in the car? The deal is a G1, while being supervised, can have other people in the motor vehicle while they are driving. They can do this as long as nobody other than the supervising driver is in the front passenger seat supervising. Nobody else can be in the front. If you had a pickup truck that had no back seat, just a bench, nobody but the supervising driver could be in the car. But if you have a back seat, then they can be in the back seat. I should clarify that there is no driving between 12 midnight and 5 a.m. with a G1 driver, and no blood alcohol content, no alcohol in their blood. And that goes for, well, it doesn't go exactly the same. A supervising driver can have no more than 0.05 BAC for them. It's a great question, though. I like this question. Thanks for asking it. Let's have a look here. Let's see what's in the chat. And for anybody who is watching on Voice over Cops, I'm simultaneously streaming on the other channel. Feel free to jump over to Traffic Services. That's a widescreen experience. Q&A doesn't work on my personal account. I don't know why. That's still stuck in the broken. I originally thought this would be a good way of having everyone happy all the time. Didn't work. I've asked this before, but I'll ask again. Is underglow illegal? If you've asked it before and you're asking again, did you not hear the answer before? I don't know. It's a popular question, though. No, the deal is that underglow isn't specifically illegal. Oops. It isn't specifically illegal. However, it can be violating other laws. For instance, if your bulbs are visible projecting like outwards, forward, back, side to side, that would be an improper headlight or tail light, depending on the color you're projecting. It's generally not something that's a good idea. The 90s have long since left the building, and I don't think it's a good idea, but it's not illegal unless, like I said, you're projecting light the wrong way. The only thing you should see on underglow is the reflection off the ground. That's it. Why do we have no sound? Someone says we have no sound, no audio. Why? It's all plugged in. Let me know if that audio is back for you folks, because I hope it is. Let's see. Let me know if the audio is working for you. That would be important. If the video... Let's see. No. Let me know. Can they read my lips? Let me know if you have audio. I'm typing it. Okay. Man Spud joined. Can you hear? Can you hear me? I'm so many different cameras, so much going on here. Okay, let's get back into the chat. We've got 96. What's the definition of BAC? Blood alcohol content. That's what it means. It means that when you're a learner, a novice, someone under the age of 22, you cannot have any blood or any alcohol in your blood. You have to have blood. It's really important to have blood. No alcohol in that blood, though. Why is it not working? They cannot hear nothing. Trying it this way. For whatever reason, they've got no audio. Maybe if I just unplug it, you'll get the audio from me just speaking into the regular microphone. Maybe you'll hear me now. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. Instagram has issues. We have issues in the Instagram world. I'm not going to lie. It's a problem. Okay. We'll keep on going. Does racing within the speed limit on the highway with no cars count as stunt driving? Racing itself, is stunt driving. Regardless of whether or not you are exceeding the speed limit, racing is still illegal. And, yeah, don't do that. Interesting question. I don't think anyone's ever asked it quite that way. Okay. I like it. I can now remove it. Is it legal or illegal? Actually, is it illegal or legal to own a retired Interceptor or sedan SUV? The answer is it's not illegal to own a former police vehicle. They're just vehicles that were owned by the police. There's no special model that's only legal to own if you're a police officer or by a police service. So, great question. Obviously, if you are putting yourself out there to be, and posing as a police officer, that is a problem. Okay. Oh, a whole bunch of stuff just shifted down. Let's see. Are there speed limit changes when there is snow? So the speed limit doesn't specifically change because there's snow. Now, that means that there's some logic that you have to employ. If you are speeding, if you're doing the speed limit, it's 100 kilometers an hour, and you're doing 100 kilometers an hour, and you're all over the place. You're driving too fast for the conditions. You're driving unsafely, and that means that you could be charged for careless driving. if you can drive safely at the speed limit, then that's great. Now, if you're speeding, that's a whole different issue. You shouldn't be speeding. That's silly. Speeding is illegal. But it doesn't. There is no specific. The traffic or the driving instructors, at least when I took my course 100 years ago, said that 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers under the speed limit is where you should be, at least 10 kilometers under, in inclement weather, rain, snow, etc. Okay. I clicked on this, I didn't read it. Let's try this again. Now the button doesn't want to work. Let's try this one. Now, here we go. Is there any way someone is able to let people know tow truck are included in slow down, move over? There is a way. You just did it when I read it. So, slow down, move over law includes police, fire, ambulance, and tow trucks that are actively at the side of the road with their lights flashing. They are included. You have to slow down and move over, and if you don't, well, you're not following the rules. You're not doing the right thing. You're putting people at risk, and they're working. So, slow down and move over applies to all emergency vehicles and tow trucks for the purposes of when they're working at the side of the road. Okay. Can you play with the quick release steering wheel at a red light? Not only can you not play with a quick release steering wheel at a red light, you cannot have a quick release steering wheel. They're not street legal. So why people put these on, it's ridiculous. They're not legal. It's illegal to remove an airbag. If your vehicle didn't have an airbag, it's illegal to have a quick release. It's not street legal. It's not safe. There's a ton of reasons. You also have to relocate your horn just to be able to make that portion legal because your horn has to function, and quick-release steering wheels generally don't have a horn. They're meant for the track. There's no good reason to have it. If you take your steering wheel off to be a twit and show the person parked beside you like, oh, my God, I got a steering wheel in my hand, it's silly, and it's silly. Yeah, I'd take you off the road for unsafe vehicle. Simple as that. Remove. Someone said that we should have music playing in the background. We tested it. Is there a belief that music would be good in the background? So I do all this reading and silence ensues. Let's see here. AODA, thank you, Akela. Earlier I was trying to remember it's accessibilities for Ontario disability. Now I can't remember what it is. But AODA is what I was thinking about. And yeah, my brain's just not functioning on that wavelength right now. We were talking about dogs, service animals. Okay, so that was Akela there. Can you get a gun in Canada for sports, for hunting? Yeah, you can. Now there's new laws and things coming out all the time, and weird things are happening. Where they're making certain guns illegal. So less guns, but you can't carry a firearm for self-defense. Only police can carry firearms, or armed guards can carry firearms. Military, when deployed or working, can use guns, but that's about it. And you know what? I think you're right, Akila. Opening tune from The Odd Couple. Why that popped into my head earlier, I don't know. And Richard says, I think it's called the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. I'm glad that everyone's helping me out today when my brain is still functioning. Last night, I blame my brain fog today, 2 days in a row, to The Witcher. I watched season 2, episode 1, and the cliffhanger was so powerful. I needed 5 minutes to watch the next one. But it's Witcher's fault that I can't remember what AODA is. I'm blaming Witcher 100%. Okay, what is this question? Here is the question. Okay, so my question is, I was pulled over and my boyfriend was in passenger. I didn't have my driver's paid, and he did. We got our car impounded, and it was a check stop. Officer said I had a warrant. This is a very involved, answer or question. Yeah. So I don't exactly know what you're saying. I understand you were pulled over. I understand that something wasn't paid. I don't know if that was a fine, a suspension, a reinstatement. I don't know. And your vehicle was impounded. And you had a warrant on top of it. So there's a lot of things going on here. If you were impounded, what was the warrant for? What was the original charge for? what was your suspension? Like, I just don't know enough, Cheyenne, to answer your question. But yeah. Oh, here, there's a continuation of this. And when I went to court, there was no warrant out for my arrest. What was his reasoning behind saying that when he pulled me over? I don't know anything about what actually transpired other than what you just told me. And I couldn't say what their reasoning was because I just don't have enough information. But that is quite the story. And I would invite you to speak to the police service and supervisor with whom was involved in the arrest. And if you have a lawyer, you should have them look into it for you. But I wouldn't be able to comment. I just don't know. Let's see here. Someone wants me to promote using their service, so we'll block them. Hey, somebody else also wants to be promoted or promote. Let's just delete them too. If someone doesn't stop at 2 stop signs, do you give them 1 ticket or 2? Well, that's an interesting question. I like that question. The answer is I would either give them 2 or I charge them with careless and stop signs. It is a pattern of behavior, and that could be 3 stops. It could be careless driving and 2 stop signs. It could be any or all. It depends on what's reasonable. Depends on what the interaction is. That is not a good thing. It's someone who's just not paying attention. Yeah, at very least, I would maybe careless in a stop sign, or maybe the careless encompasses the stop sign. Depends on how that's gonna go. I don't know. I like the question though. Chase, my friend with 2 dogs in his photo. Can you legally break a window to save a child or animal in the car if they are actively suffering? So, this is a funny question. I like it. I like it a lot. The answer is that you are going to be held responsible for whatever you do. Can you articulate and justify breaking the window of a car to save a life of a child or an animal? I think you could, but is it something that might cause you to be injured if it's an animal and you hit to break the window? You're doing the right thing, but the dog might bite you. You might get cut. You might find that the vehicle was in safe mode and you thought it was at risk, and you chose to do something, and now you're liable for that window. Hello, Sarge.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. We're talking about breaking windows to save animals or children. Children, I think it's a no-brainer if you see someone.
For sure, for children, especially if it's hot weather or sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah, there's so many reasons. Heat and cold are both serious. Yeah. What we were talking about earlier. Actively suffering was the description. I like the description. Well, I mean, actively suffering isn't a good thing, so I don't like that they were actively suffering. Anyway, it's a Chase. Chase is good with these questions. He comes up with the random stuff. Let's see here. Someone was talking about getting arrested before. Okay, we got a whole bunch of questions here. Let's go. What do we got? And look at that. I can type this. Go here. I'm planning to give, what is this question? I'm planning to give G1, so can you suggest me material to read? There is a book specifically designed, written, with all the stuff you need to do to study for that test. It's 20, is it 20 or 40 questions? It's either
20 road signs and 20 general knowledge questions.
I knew there was a 20, and then I couldn't remember if it was 10 and 10 or 20 and 20.
But you can buy that book, because I bought it for my kids a number of years ago, at Shoppers Drug Mart. Or your local pharmacy probably has it, some of the other ones.
And it's free online.
And online, yep. All you young people are good and adept at using the internet. And there are also practice tests online, which are very similar to the real ones, apparently, according to my children. So check those out too.
There's a phone app too, from what I'm told.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Here's another question. If heavy vehicle is driving on residential roadway, would they get ticketed? If it's a truck and it says no trucks, can they be on the road? Actually, in some circumstances, they can. Let's say there's a moving truck. They don't make you stop it at the next street. If you're servicing a property on that street, they're allowed. They're exempt for that purposes of delivering to that. A garbage truck is a truck. They're allowed to go and pick up the garbage. So it depends. It is specifically intended for preventing people from using it as a drive-through, as a way of beating traffic, going there just because. But they can service the homes and businesses on the street.
And there are rural roads out by my area too that specifically say no vehicles over 5 tons or whatever the stipulation is. So.
But again, if they were servicing someone,
then they could stop there. But otherwise, they need to pick an alternate route.
Here's an interesting question. Is it legal to pass on the inside lane if the person is in passing lane doesn't move? So I think that we need to really dissect this. If it is a multi-lane road all traveling in the same direction, and you can change lanes and drive safely in the other lane, you can be in any lane you want. When you talk about passing on the right or not passing on the right, that is intended for, people drive onto the shoulder to get around someone. If you're driving onto a paved shoulder or off a paved shoulder when someone's slowing down to make a turn, that's what that really deals with. If you're on a highway, it's a multi-lane highway, everyone's going in the same direction, someone's camping out in lane 1 and they're going under the speed limit, can you change lanes and pass them on the right? Safely, yes, if you can do it safely. Unsafe, you'd be responsible for what happens. Okay. We talked about that. You said inside lane. Inside lane is sort of backwards. Outside lane. Outside, inside. Inside's like lane 1. Lane 1, the passing lane, that's 1. There's nowhere else to go on the inside. You can't go on the shoulder. So if I misinterpreted what you were saying, I'll renege. You can't pass on the inside shoulder. You can't pass on the outside shoulder. You can passing. You're supposed to be done
In a marked lane.
In a marked lane. Yeah. Is it illegal to pass a snowplow on the highway? We talk about this a lot. It's not suggested, but I don't believe there's a specific law that says thou shalt not pass a snowplow. Now, there are some caveats to that. It's unsafe. If you create an unsafe situation, if you do so, if passing that vehicle is careless driving or potentially dangerous driving, although that's a bit of a stretch, I think, it's not advisable. That vehicle is there to safely remove snow and ice and slush and add salt to make it safer. You're in a rush, that's not an excuse.
And a lot of times you'll see the plows on the highway traveling 2, 3, 4 abreast for that very reason, so that cars can't get by them. They have a job to do. And really, at the end of the day, they are making the road safer for you, so why not just stay behind them? And if the weather is terrible, then it's incumbent on you to give yourself extra time to get to your destination safely, and you should anticipate that you might be stuck behind plows.
Yeah, and if you leave yourself extra time, there's no stress, there's no reason to pass. And most people pass, it just drives me crazy, people pass other vehicles that are traveling at the speed limit. You're breaking the law, whether it's a snowplow or another vehicle. If you're exceeding the speed limit, it's illegal. Not because they're a snowplow, because you're speeding. And going fast in crappy weather is a really bad idea. Could be careless in itself. Why can I drink, but what is this? Why can I drink, but I can't food a food? The wording I think you mean is eat food or chew food. I don't know. Why can I drink a drink, but I can't food a food? I love it. The answer is you can. If you're drinking a drink that is non-alcoholic, and if you're eating a food that is not non-drug or alcoholic, and you can do that safely without negatively impacting your ability to operate your motor vehicle, it's legal. As soon as that changes, in other words, if you're good and you're just loving that hamburger and your eyes roll back because it's so good, well, that's careless driving, and that's a problem. But just eating isn't specifically against the law. In Ontario, I got to add that in there because I understand that in places like Alberta, it might be illegal. But I think it's also illegal to drink a drink as opposed to food of food. I love that he said food of, they said food of food. It just kills me. Okay. I am easily entertained. I'm apparently overtired.
It's Friday.
It's Friday and I'm overtired. And I watched episode 1.5. So I watched episode 1 of Witcher season 2. And the cliffhanger was so good that I started watching part of episode 2 because I wouldn't have been able to sleep. It was just hanging.
You need to get in bed by 9 p.m.
Yeah,
period.
I was in bed by 11.
No, 9.
I get up at 4-ish, so yeah, 9 would be good. Never happens, but it is good. Sometimes I just pass out where I'm sitting. Like I rock in the rocking chair with the kids, and then we all wake up, or I wake up at 3 in the morning. So yeah. What's the difference between a G2 driver's license and a G driver's license? Great question. The answer is, well, the following. 1, a G driver can renew their license without testing. A G2 driver would have to retest to renew. Because it's not really a renewal. It's once again getting a G2, achieving that. You must maintain a 0 BAC as a G2 driver, but you must maintain a 0 BAC as a G driver until you are 22 years old. Because you're considered is it a novice or a young driver? Regardless, you're not allowed to do it. Terminology aside, you can't do it. Now, G drivers that are 22 can't drink and drive, but they're allowed to have some alcohol in their blood. But there are limits. You cannot have more than 0.05 to legally drive. You get a 3-day suspension if you had a Warren range suspension by providing a breath sample, or if you were over 0.08, you'd be criminally charged for impaired operation, which is a criminal charge, because that's what I said, it's criminal. What else? If you are a G2 in the first 6 months of having your G2, you're restricted between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. from having more than one passenger under the age of 20 in your vehicle. And the second 6 months, after you've graduated your first 6 months, your second 6 months of being a G2, you're restricted to having no more than 3 people under the age of 20 in your vehicle between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. Save and except there's an exemption for immediate family members. But that's the difference. You can drive anywhere. It's a probationary license. Obviously, if you don't get your G and you don't retake your G2, you don't get to keep your license. And there are some other things come to mind. If you get a ticket while you have a G2, and with 4 points, you get a suspension. If you break any of those conditions, you get a suspension. And they escalate. So the first suspension is 30 days, second suspension is 90, third suspension is actually, you get kicked out of the graduate licensing program. Additionally, I think it's 9 points before you get a suspension for accumulating points as a novice. But when you have your G, it goes up to 15 points. So once you're a G, you've reached a next level.
And regardless whether you're a G2 or a G, if you're accumulating that many points, your insurance company's not going to like you. And as a newer driver, chances are you may not be renewed, or you may be paying some very, very hefty insurance.
Yes. Keeping on the theme of G2, I'm a G driver. For me to drive with G2 driver, do I need to tell my insurance? So a G driver is a G driver. You don't need to drive with anybody. A G2 driver, likewise, doesn't need to be accompanied by anybody. So the issue is that if you have a G2 driver who lives with you, they are supposed to be added to your insurance based on the requirements of the insurance company, not the law. So whereas I can't give you a ticket for driving, mom's car if you live with mom when you're a G2, the insurance company could decide to deny your claim. Even though the vehicle's insured, they may not cover you for your extra coverage. They'd cover you for the base stuff, but really, trying to save a few dollars, and it usually is a few dollars to have your G2 added. That's if you live with them. If you're loaning your car to your neighbor and they have a G2, they don't have to be added to your insurance. But remember, you're loaning your vehicle to someone, and they are going to impact your insurance in the event that something happens. If they crash your car, yeah, it's not a good day at the office. Something to think about. If you're going to loan your car to anybody, do you just check to see if they have a license in their pocket? Yeah, that might go well. It might not. What I would suggest doing is go to trafficcop.ca. At the very bottom of my link tree, there is a link to the drive to the Ontario government's checkup system. I don't know what to call it. You can check the driver's license status. So you punch in the license, you confirm some information, and it'll tell you if that license is valid or not valid. Know before you lend your vehicle, because lending your vehicle to an unlicensed person, not only would it negatively impact your insurance, but you'd also be charged under the HTA for allowing someone to drive without a license. You have responsibilities. Okay, I'm removing that one. What is this? Here we go. Ed, I'm assuming that's part of something else. Is it okay to U-turn when there is a red light? I see a lot of people doing it, and I always wondered. I am shocked at the number of people who think they can make a U-turn on a red light.
Red light is red light.
You cannot go through it. If you do it without stopping, that is running a red light. It's a big ticket with lots of points. If you make a red light, or if you U-turn after coming to a complete stop on a red, it's proceed before green, and you would get a ticket for that too. And it's bad. It's bad. U-turns are generally a dangerous maneuver. Turning in any situation is going to be your most vulnerable situation. But doing a U-turn at an intersection is especially not a good idea. Listen, when you are doing it on a green light, and especially with an advanced green, and everybody in the world is expecting it, hey, have at her. But be careful. You're responsible. When you're turning, you're responsible. Should all transitions from private commercial property to roadway be considered like a stop? Well, in Toronto, I believe it's a bylaw, but you have to stop before entering a roadway. Fail to yield from private drive, you'd be responsible. In a collision, you'd be charged. So yeah, you should stop before crossing the sidewalk. Now is it an HTA or is it bylaw? In any case, stop because you want to make sure it's safe to do so. There we go here. If a police officer is abusing power illegally, can I defend with physical force if necessary? That's a very complicated question because how are you determining that they're abusing power illegally? If they're trying to arrest you and you're saying, I don't want to be arrested, I would suggest complying. You can sue later. Because if you are wrong and you now use force, you're resisting arrest, you're going to escalate situations, and chances are the police officer who is going to be calling for other police officers to assist will continue until they arrest you. Fighting the police is a bad idea. If you don't like the way you're being treated, put in a complaint afterwards. Hire a lawyer. But abusing power illegally is something that is not really explaining to me what you're suggesting. And it may not be the answer you want. Sarge, what would you weigh in? And what would you add?
Yeah, same thing you just said. I'll concur with that. Like it's, obviously if you're being arrested, there's a lawful reason for it, and you need to comply with those demands under the law. And like Sean said, if you don't like it afterwards, there are all kinds of channels that you can pursue to file a formal complaint, and then it'll be investigated. And remember too that every officer in Toronto and the province now has body cameras. We have dash cam videos in our cars. So everything that transpired will be captured, and that's all part of the review process.
Yeah, and you may notice that police officers carry firearms, they carry weapons, they carry pepper spray. If you're fighting with them, that's going to be it's going to escalate matters, and you may feel very right, but you might get very hurt and end up making matters worse. It's better to remain civil, follow directions, and take matters up after the fact. Okay, enough about that. It's an interesting question. We've never had one posed quite that way. What is this? Can I get some clarification on in-home sobriety tests? I just learned of this, and it sounds nuts. I don't know what you mean by in-home sobriety test.
Like ones that you buy on the internet and you can blow into?
Or the fact that up to 2 hours after the driving was said to have happened, that we can still do a test. So you need to clarify that because I'm not sure what you're talking about. But ultimately, you can buy some equipment or some tests that allow you to get an idea as to whether or not you are under the legal limit. My suggestion is that you simply don't drink if you are planning to drive. Period. And if you do, you're running risk of not only getting hurting somebody else, but also being arrested in the event that that device, which is not calibrated the same as a police, scientific instrument, you may be breaking the law and you think you're okay. Also, sobriety, or in the case of impairment, could take place at any amount of alcohol. Even if you're under the legal limit, you may respond differently to alcohol than others. And then there's not just alcohol, but there is drugs which don't show up on those tests necessarily. So things to consider, and just generally, just don't drive while impaired. Don't drive while under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. What is this? Why do police officers park randomly at a parking lot? Are they on break time or on standby? I don't know what you mean by randomly. Very often when we're writing up a report after an event, whether it be an arrest or a traffic stop or a collision, we'll find somewhere that we have a good vantage point to see what's coming up to us for our safety, and we'll work on our reports until we can clear and get back onto another call. So that may be what you mean by we're sort of like off in the random back corner of a parking lot.
And sometimes, too, you have to remember we're human. We need to eat. We need to have a little bit of downtime here and there, just like any office worker would that would walk away from their desk, right?
Absolutely.
So, but our desk is on the road, so we have to find locations sometimes to do that.
We work all the time. That's our place. That's from the beginning to the end. Are you ever going to have the courage to sing the whole traffic song? Yesterday at the end of the show, I decided to add a tidbit here and there to the traffic song, sing along. I'm sure that one day I will be able to do the whole song. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. Maybe one day. We're going to record another next week, I believe. We're going to record a new, not a replacement to the traffic song, but another track to the one day to be published traffic album.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not saying, well, maybe I'll sing it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. We have a question of Sean. Oh, Sean Chen says, hello. I'm in multiple windows, so I apologize. I was not trying to ignore you, but yeah. I was ignoring you because I was in a different window. Now, let's get back into here. Akela says, for breaking a window, would it not be best to call 911 and let them deal with it? So somebody in distress, animal in distress, call 911, or do you react? That's going to be a personal call. When it comes to animals, if you're wrong, you're responsible. If you're right, you're a hero. It's a tough decision. Yeah. It is always better to call 911 and have them do it. We have tools and equipment and friends with bigger equipment like fire that if we needed to get into a car, we could. But if you think it's the moments of life and death are right there, then absolutely you can do it. But I still like the idea of calling police because we have authorities that you don't have. So, but a kid in the car. Oh, by the way, try the lock first. Try opening the door before you go to break in the window. I can't tell you how many times people smash windows and the door was unlocked. Anyway, let's see here. If there's no cars in sight, what is this? If there's no cars in sight nor pedestrians on a left-hand turn, can you go through the left without stopping, or do you have to stop first? If there's no cars in sight nor pedestrians on a left-hand turn, you go through the left without stop. It depends on what the intersection says.
You're talking like a green advance?
Advanced green or green light. If you're turning, if there's nobody around,
then you turn.
You turn. You don't have to come to a stop. If you're talking, I'm confused by your question because there's I don't know.
I don't know.
Mr. Jabber, ask me what you're. Please clarify. I do not understand. Also, there's a massive pothole I hit that broke my shock absorber. Is there a way to file a report, or am I paying out of pocket? It wasn't visible, and I was going below the speed limit. So the answer is the City of Toronto, I believe, is responsible for damage to your vehicle to a certain level for damage for road issues that are not maintained. Go to the toronto.ca website, and I believe it's there. There should be a form or at least someone to talk to.
Most municipalities take responsibility for it. You just need to get a hold of them and
document it, photograph it, show it.
Everything, all the evidence you have, and they'll take care of it.
Another question, Jabber's got a lot of questions. Why don't we have a 0% alcohol tolerance? It's a good question. I don't make the laws. I don't know why they have the laws the way they are. I guess there's at a certain point they think that people are responsible to make decisions. Oddly enough, we have people who if someone's going to drink and drive, whether we have a 0 tolerance or a 0.05 or a 0.08 is almost irrelevant. Someone who's going to drink is going to drink, and people who are convicted and multiple times convicted and suspended still drink and drive. So the question is not what is the rule; it's what do we do to people once they've broken the rule to prevent them from doing it again. What I've seen. What's this? We got Richard who says I've seen a driver use a railway crossing as a U-turn lane across a median. Oh gosh, not safe, not legal. Don't do that. It's within 30 meters of it's actually prohibited within 30 meters of a
railway crossing.
A bridge, viaduct, all sorts of places you can never do.
Never mind the fact that trains move really fast and they're big.
They don't stop well.
They don't stop
and
well.
They never swerve to avoid. Is a taser illegal? It's legal for police to utilize. It is not legal for civilians to own or use. In the States, they're legal, and maybe other provinces. No, actually, no other provinces would. Nope. It's criminal. You can't use them. You can't use pepper spray against a person. You can't use tasers at all. You can't possess them.
And my question would be, why would you need one?
Well, people believe that they need to defend themselves, but that's not a way you can do that.
Yeah, no.
Let's see here. Under what circumstances would you call 911 to report rash driving? Rash being dangerous driving. You know what? If it's dangerous, if you think that someone's life is in danger right then and there, it's not someone who's just annoying you because they make too many lane changes or they're not annoying you because they're going faster. To make it to the point of calling police, I would say that you have to believe that there is a risk of someone losing life or injury. Like it has to be an emergency. You can always make a complaint on our website if it's in the City of Toronto, www.tps.ca. We'll get you to an online reporting entry where you can make either complaints about a specific vehicle or complaints about a community, an area where there's issues regularly around your, if there's something around your house, people keep running the stop sign. You can make that report. That's a good report, but it's not 911, and that's a big thing. Don't abuse 911 because that's bad. Okay. My son has a G1. His mom is 45 years old and has only had her full G since April of 2022. Can she teach him? your son's age is irrelevant. A G1 driver requires a driver who is qualified, and qualified means 4 years of experience. That experience starts when they got their G2. If his mom had her G2 for 4 years and just got her G2, her G, she'd be or should be qualified. Now, the way to do it is check on the driver's license. Bottom right-hand corner of the driver's license is a mini-me photo. To the left of that would be 4 dots, one on top of the other. 4 dots to the left of the mini-me photo. That would be an indicator that you're qualified to drive. That's your experience marker. If she doesn't have that, she's not qualified to drive. The suggestion would be take a driving course with a certified instructor. Better than learning from anybody else anyway. We talked about the traffic song and my courage to sing it. Okay. Here is the great question. Can I transfer my handicap permit sign to my truck from my mother's car if she's with me? So the answer is the permit is to be used by the person it's issued. If you're driving with your mom and she's the passenger, then while she's a passenger, you can utilize that because she's utilizing it in your car. If she's not in the car, like you drop her at the front door of a building and you drive to a parking spot, you may not use it. It is only while literally the person it's assigned to is physically in the car when parking takes place. People get that wrong. A friend of mine who owns a restaurant downtown took his son, who is wheelchair bound, dropped his son with the wheelchair and his wife off with the son at the side of the road, parked in front of the Eaton Center in a parking spot that was for accessible permit. Thinking that the permit was there, he was legit able to use it, came back. Someone was waiting for him. They checked his permit. They took it from him, and it was a big fight to get it back. It was an honest mistake, but that will negatively impact your life. So if you need it, use it properly because the person who had it issued will suffer when they're waiting for it. Okay, what is this? If a stop sign and road is covered in snow, can a person get fined for running it even though going slow in storm? So the sign is obstructed. If you don't know the intersection and it doesn't look like an intersection, and there's no way that anyone would know, and you might have a defense if you couldn't see it. But if an intersection looks like an intersection and you're being cautious and going slow, then you should be slowing and being extra cautious and assuming things. Like if you've never been there, it's feasible maybe, but that's going to be a court triable thing. That's not something I can tell you you're going to get off of because I may not think it's reasonable as a police officer. Like, did everybody else run it too that was in front of you, behind you, beside you? Like, it depends.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing because if I'm doing enforcement,
generally you're going to make sure as the officer that sign is clearly visible because that's part of your evidence. So if it's not visible, you're either going to clear it off and make it visible.
Yeah.
That's
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
But you are responsible. If you run a red light because it's slippery, you're still responsible for running the red light. If you run a stop sign because it's slippery and you try and stop but you can't. But if it's truly invisible because of the stop sign, but I think that as I reread this again, if a stop sign and road is covered in snow, no, they're saying that the sign is covered. But let's pretend the sign is not covered, and it's just it's a white octagon. I think it's reasonable at that point to believe that you should stop. But you know what? Again, it'll be interesting for you to have in court. Come back and let us know how it goes. Speaking of stop signs, do you have to stop for the full 2 seconds? I don't know about this 2-second rule. You must come to a complete stop according to law. That means that you have to stop. There's no
rolling stops. No,
Yeah.
Stop. Stop is stop.
When I there's so many ways to describe how this works, but when I describe it in court, I say that I watched the vehicle rock back. We rolled forward, and then it rested back. The weight transfer from all being in the front and evened out, and all 4 wheels were even again. I literally watch for that. If I don't see that vehicle rock back, you haven't stopped. Question about have I answered a video about the truck cutting off the other vehicle? I have not, but I'm going to post that video after this live. So someone was asking about a follow-up video, the part 2 for the video of the DVP collision where the pickup truck cut off the semi. I will be doing that right after we go off the air. If I get my G2 months before the license expires, does it extend or do I have to restart the process? My understanding is your license, when you get your G2, will be issued with a new expiry date because that's what I understand it to be. So you'll have to pay. If you pay, you know that it extends. If you don't pay, you're likely going to have an expiry because they do charge you. You have 5 years when you get your G1 to complete it. If you go to the end of the 5 years and get your G2, you don't get another 5 years. It doesn't extend. You'd have to pay. So you're going to know. But you know what? This is a good thing to ask the MTO when you go there or drive test when you go there, because they would be the best source of information when it comes to what they do. They're the specialists in what they do. That's what they do. Can police enter a home without a warrant because they think someone was a DUI, phone call, etc.? Entering the house, there's a bunch of things for entering the house. There's a 911 call. We're entering for that purpose. There's someone in distress, and it's that moments that's what is it? It's
You're in fresh pursuit.
It's the word. It's the words that mean stuff. Someone coming, but thinking someone was DUI. I mean, there's some obligations under the new stuff, and I'm not. I've not been on the road while this came into play, but within 2 hours of driving, they can compel you to take a test. You can still be charged, even though you're at home. People used to say, well, we'll get home, and we'll start drinking the moment we get home, and then I'll answer the door with a bottle of JD in my hand, and I won't be able to get convicted. That's no longer the case. If you answer the door and you're boozed up, you can still be investigated and charged. Let's see here. Is it illegal to use my phone at a red light? Yes, it is. It's illegal. You're driving, even if you are stopped. In fact, the only place that you can use your phone is when you are legally parked. Not parked in the parking gear. Like if you're at a red light, you put it in park in the middle of Yonge Street. That is not parked. Parked means legally where you could have gotten out of your vehicle and walked away and not gotten a ticket. So a legal parking space. We get this question a lot. Can I floor it as soon as it turns green but stay within the speed limit? Can you? You may choose to. Could it result in a charge of stunt driving? It could, because you are driving outside of the norms. You're a marked departure of other traffic. It is unsafe. Pedestrians who are expecting you to do what everybody else does, which is drive like a normal human being, and not put people at risk. Accelerating at that rate could result in a charge of racing, even if you're racing the clock. It doesn't make sense to everybody, but safety is the key. And hammering the gas and launch moding your vehicle to 60 kilometers an hour is utter nonsense. I said nonsense. I don't use that word very much. I feel old when I use that word. Hey, my G2 license is about to expire. Is there any way I can extend it before going for my G license? The way to extend your G2 license is to take your G2 test again. So the same test to get your G2 license, you can do it again, and you can renew your G2 for another 5 years. But you should just get your G, man. Just do it. Do it.
If you're going to take that test, why not take the G one?
They're almost the same test.
Yeah.
So just do that. Let's see here. Can I flash my lights at someone who doesn't have their lights on at night? Oddly enough, technically flashing your high beams is improperly using your high beams, but it's for a reasonable purpose, and chances are you wouldn't get charged for it. Flashing people for telling them where a speed trap is, that's a different situation. But I honestly think that communicating the light turning on is a valid and good reason to, because it's dangerous. So can you? Is a question mark. Should an officer give you a ticket? It's discretion, right? So it's going to be up to the officer, but I wouldn't give you a ticket for that. I think it's reasonable. And I'd probably pull the person over for the lights out before I'd pull you over for flashing them. But anyway. Do I need to tell my do I have to tell my insurance company after getting my G? You'd think you'd want to, because you'd probably get an insurance discount. So yeah, you need to tell them when you get that. That's important information that they'll likely want to know. What is the difference between a red light? What is this? What difference between red light running and amber light running? The price of the ticket. You are supposed to stop for an amber light unless it's unsafe to do so. There are... Oh, my phone is currently active. I can't look it up. One is $325, I think, and the other one's $110. But the fact is they're both charges, and they will both impact your license and your insurance. Yeah, amber or yellow does not mean hit the gas, go faster, despite popular belief. Can a cop or OPP pull you over for no reason? Well, OPP are cops. So cops, police, can in fact pull you over as a driver of a motor vehicle for a number of reasons that you may not agree with. In other words, you don't have to be breaking the law the moment that you're being pulled over to initiate a traffic stop. I can pull you over as a police officer to check to see if you're licensed, to check to see if you're insured, to check to see if you're sober, and to inspect the vehicle to make sure it's safe. Those things are always in play. So I pull you over because you look young, or because the Vehicle comes back as a check for possibly no insurance, or the vehicle looks like it's unsafe on the road, or I'm going to do a roadside screening device because we have mandatory alcohol screening in Canada. All of those reasons are valid. Like I remember being pulled over as a kid. I was driving a Mustang. It was my Mustang. It was my mother's name. Why is a man driving a car that's owned by a woman? Are you a licensed driver? Who are you? It's a reasonable stop. Is it something that I generally do? I usually look for people who are speeding, breaking the law, putting lives at risk. But is it a legal reason? It is a legal reason. And people go, what? That's not cool. I wasn't breaking the law at that time. Let's see here.
If you follow the rules of the road and follow the laws, you don't have to worry about it.
Oddly enough, we have bigger fish to fry than just randomly pulling people over. We're looking for people who are violating the law. That's it. If you're not violating the law, we probably have better things to deal with. But if but it does give us the ability to stop and check things, which are important, like the impaired. So ride programs, that whole mandatory alcohol screening. It's the best. You can stop everybody for that, and I think we should, because we find so many people who are impaired, and they're such professionals under the influence of alcohol that they don't look at. But we check random people. It's all the time. And that's not during certain days and times. It's all the time. If someone jaywalks and you hit them, are you charged, or the person who crossed the street? Well, it depends. It depends. It really depends, because someone who is legally, because jaywalking isn't illegal. There's crossing mid-block, which is legal. You have to be safe to do it. And if someone's legally crossing the road and safely doing it, and you're 200 feet away and you're driving at the speed limit, you should slow down and stop. Now, you can't just hit them. But if they jumped out in front of you, if they stepped right into traffic and you had no ability to safely avoid that, well, would you be charged for hitting them? Probably not. This is where dash cameras really help. Having evidence to support your statement, because everyone's going to say, well, I didn't see them. They just jumped out. They could have been there for 10 minutes and you hit them. You were on your phone. Like, it depends. You really want to have that independent witness of a camera, in my opinion. Which reminds me, I brought my new dash camera here to install on my truck during my lunch, if I take one. But yeah, it's you can't hit people. You have to be actively driving your vehicle and responding to changes. If a car pulled out, would you just hit it? Well, it pulled out. No, you want to try and avoid the collision if you can. So to get more specific, what would happen? It depends. Either you or the other person or both of you could be charged. Nobody likes being hit. And nobody wants to hit anybody else. That's a horrible thing to have to deal with. This is a good question to which I don't have an answer, and I'll tell you right now, I don't know. When operating farm equipment, operators must wear seatbelts? Question mark. I would think no.
Yeah, because technically it'd be on private property. So I would think no, but I don't know the answer
There's
to
a
that.
farmer here. We could ask the farmer, but I don't think
the farmer?
So. Sven. Sven
Oh,
drives
right.
farm equipment. But I don't believe you do. It wouldn't be enforceable in a car or on private property. So I would assume it's not enforceable, and it wouldn't be the HTA. Yeah, it's not. You don't have to wear it. You should, because it's safer. If you roll a combine, could you imagine?
A self-propelled implement of husbandry.
Oh my God.
Remember that terminology?
I do. It haunts me. Is it against the law to flash your lights to warn drivers as a cop ahead? Again, we talked about headlamps earlier. Is it against the law to high beam someone? Technically, yes. If you're high beaming to get them to slow down, to avoid them being caught for something they're doing, which is putting lives at risk, being unsafe on the road, then I think that that's a moral issue, and only you can make that determination. But I think that that's horrible. I think that you putting lives at risk is not okay. You're going to get them to slow down temporarily, not get ticketed, then continue to drive like, I was going to use a bad word, but unsafe people, and then they hurt someone. So if that person doesn't get a ticket, doesn't slow down, and then kills someone the next block, it could have been avoided. We could have given them that ticket, changed their driving behavior potentially forever. Worked for me when I was a kid. I got a speeding ticket. I didn't speed after that. Yeah, it's not something I would recommend. I think people should get ticketed for the choices they make, and maybe we get them on the straight and narrow and have them drive more safely next time. Can an officer put you in the back of a vehicle for no reason on a traffic stop? For no reason? Like really no reason? Like, hey, get out of your car because no reason? That doesn't happen.
No.
There's always a reason.
Sometimes we'll put you in the back if you're a witness to a collision or you've been involved in a collision and we want to get some information from you. And, we have audio and video equipment back there so you can provide a statement. There's reasons that we would request that you sit in the back seat of the car. But those are just a few.
If your vehicle's out of gas, you're going to sit in the back of the car because it's warmer.
Yeah.
It all depends. But we don't just walk up to people randomly and say, get out of your car, get into mine. And if we do things, we're going to tell you what we're doing and why we're doing it. There's no reason. Nothing we do is for no reason.
Yeah.
There's always a reason.
We have to justify our actions.
And we record everything. So that recording of our reasons is right there.
Yeah.
If you have an accident, well, first of all, I have to tell you, we don't have accidents, we have collisions. Because you were avoiding an animal, are you liable and at fault? Absolutely. If you have to make a decision between a human or property and an animal, driving instructors will tell you, you hit the animal. Because if you cause a collision and put lives at risk, you're at fault for whatever you do. The animal, they don't have insurance, unfortunately. Is a baseball bat considered a weapon? Well,
Could be.
Yeah, a pencil could be a weapon. A screwdriver can be a weapon. Like things have multiple purposes. Things that are designed exclusively as weapons are weapons all the time. Things that are designed for one purpose but used as a weapon of opportunity or a weapon in general because of its functionality can be used either way. Yeah, it can be a weapon and you can be charged for it. People who carry baseball bats around all the time for no reason, that's probably a weapon. Let's see here. I've totally ignored the folks on, those are old messages. 40 minutes ago, Holly Smith. I seen a police officer behind a car that wasn't cleared of snow, obviously obstructing view, and he let him go. Is it a choice to pull over unsafe drivers? It is discretion. Discretion is what's important.
And there could be a variety of reasons, like maybe that officer was on his way to a priority call, which potentially took precedent over the vehicle that was covered in snow. So there's a variety of reasons why.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a good question. Is it a procedure to put you in back of a police cruiser if you haven't drank to do a roadside test? Well, we put you in a position where it's warm and comfortable generally to perform a roadside screening device because keeping you outside in horrible temperatures is no good. If it's unsafe to have you at the side of the road, it's not that there's a procedure specifically. It might be for your comfort, absolutely, and to protect you because we want to be responsible and we want to have you on video. So, tons of reasons. Tips. Hold on. Is brake checking illegal? Got a couple more before we end the show. Brake checking is the intentional application of brakes for no reason other than to get the person behind you to slam on the brakes. Yeah, it could be dangerous driving. It could be criminal. It could be absolutely criminal. It could be careless, at very least careless driving. That is a stupid thing to do.
And even if you're mad at something that driver did, it doesn't justify slamming on your brakes and putting other people's lives at risk.
Absolutely not. Sarah Pollock, trying to speak with you. I will have a look at what Sarah is talking about in a bit. Oh, hey, that's saying, I got a meeting in 30 minutes. Hey, look at that. Leo wife, my wife says, literally Leo wife. Best to go to a professional driving school. Absolutely. Professional driving schools do it right. They're teachers. They're not friends and parents who have their own bad habits. Let's see here. Can and do new special constables write provincial offenses tickets like traffic offenses? I don't believe they do.
No, I don't think so.
I don't believe they enforce HTA. They have very specific roles, not that of a...
they can direct traffic. They can arrest people. They can do a multitude of different things. So,
is it illegal to have a credit card knife as a tool? So, a funny thing in the criminal code is that if you have a something that is designed to conceal its identity, like a pen that has a knife concealed in it, that's a prohibited weapon, according to the criminal code. So if it's a knife that's designed to look like something else, it's a problem. If it's a knife that happens to be the shape of a credit card and doesn't try and I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Because it sounds really similar to concealing its identity.
Yeah.
It could very well get you in trouble. I would avoid that. I've seen some multi-tools that have sharp-ish edges that are tools, and I get it. There's like screwdriver bits and things. Could you use it as a weapon? Maybe. It's a really gray area.
yeah.
I'd avoid it altogether. Did cannabis DUIs increase after legalization? So I understand that across Canada, and I don't have stats for either, but I've been talking to the folks at TURF, the Traffic Injury Research Foundation, and they have said that people who are under the influence of cannabis have increased dramatically in fatal collisions. I'm going based on what I've read and been told in conversation. So I understand it's gone up tremendously. I don't have specific stats to share with you. And Stephen Bell says good morning, and it's still technically good morning. Okay, we're wrapping up. A couple of quick things here. Tips on kids safe walking from school. Apparently there was an attempted abduction in our area, and this mama is panicking. What do you think? This is the abduction side of it isn't really my area of expertise. I talk about being safe and looking both ways and having everyone sort of be responsible for their vehicles and where parking takes place. But in terms of being safe walking from school to avoid bad persons with bad intent,
if you can travel, depending on the age of the child too, if they can travel with other people, it's like the old saying, safety in numbers. Not to say that things don't happen.
Sure.
But when you have other people with you, there's just other people there, right? As opposed to just being by yourself. Maybe walking your child to school, to and from. A lot of kids these days have cell phones. You can, as a parent, there's apps where you can track and see where your child is. And also open communication about, if it's a text message, I'm leaving now, and then the anticipated time that they're home. There's a lot of different safety tips. Walking in well-lit areas, right? Not going in walking past dark where there's no street lights.
Yeah.
That could be potentially something to avoid.
I don't know the age of the person for the story, because someone said, did the kid get nabbed or grabbed? I don't know if they were, I don't know the story, so I'm just going based on the conversation that was brought up, or the question that was brought up. I have my child has an Apple Watch. Both my kids have Apple Watches. I know where they are, but they don't walk to school. They get walked to school.
Yeah.
Someone who's a little older or a responsible adult goes with them, and ideally that's the way you want to go. I understand it's not for everybody. It's not always an option. Some kids have keys to their own home and do their thing. So you've got to make the best decision you can based on what options you have. Obviously, you're not going to send your kid with a baseball bat to protect himself, because that's not something. Teaching them, having these conversations with them.
I think that's important, talking to your children, having general safety conversations, and that goes a long way. They may not want to sit down and have those, but it's really important, and that develops that open dialogue between parent and child.
Yeah, and that whole do not talk to strangers thing, and get them. It's good to be a little bit paranoid. Like you don't want. And that they can run, and knowing that they can make a lot of noise, and drawing attention to themselves. If they're walking in the middle of the night by themselves, that's a risk situation. So after school programs become an option. Maybe if you can't pick them up yourself, but waiting longer, maybe that's the answer. I would also talk to the schools that they're attending and ask for the suggestions as to what's going on in that particular neighborhood, because that is alarming, and I can appreciate as a parent myself,
For sure.
What this looks like. Kayla Draconis says, stay safe and don't have a good weekend. Have a great weekend. I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Kayla.
I think we covered everything, or almost everything. We've gone a little bit over time, and I got to go prep for another meeting/interview/thing. So thank you very much for joining and spending time with us. Love having you here. If you are going to be driving, please drive sober. No drugs, no alcohol. If you're going to go out and have fun this weekend, do it responsibly. There's lots of great opportunities to have other people drive. Like the big red rocket business that we have in this great city that takes you where you need to go safely. There's lots of controversy in the media right now in terms of safety. Well, our chief has come out and said they're going to have more officers out there helping to keep people safe. So don't lose faith in the TTC. It's still a great way to travel, especially if you're going to be going out and spending time in bars, consuming alcohol. The worst thing you can do is get behind the wheel of a car. Not only are there legal repercussions, but you could hurt someone. You could kill yourself, somebody else. It's just not worth it. Taxis, if you don't want to be on the streetcar or on the transit, Ubers, all sorts of options. Have a great weekend. See you Monday. I'll leave you with a song.
Happy weekend.
I dropped something.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Okay, we're out of here. I'm going to stay on the VoiceOver Cop channel for a couple minutes, but we are gonzos.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,